when you went in front of the mirror today to put your vibhuti or to comb your hair or to put your bottu, did you think of my message? Did you think, whom are you seeing? How are you seeing? What is the method with which you are seeing? Isn't it? Clean mirror, steady mirror, and focus on where you are putting the vibhuti or bottu or combing your hair or whatever. See, this Ashtanga Yoga of Patanjali is also the Raja Yoga. The yoga where Vivekananda taught to many of his brother disciples, and he told them also to follow, were these. But it does not mean that this cannot be done along with Bhakti Yoga or Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga. It is not like this. Everything can be done parallelly too. But unless we have some list, like he has list of 9 things, only then Purnavatar. If one is also missing, you are Apurna Avatar. So there is some way they have codified this whole thing so that people remember that all this, if they follow, then that is the Ashtanga Yoga. 8 steps are there, and in each step there is a description of why, how you have to do that. This is simply for the sake of helping us remember, keep it in our memory, all that which needs to be done. When you do that, then there is a possibility of attaining that which you are aiming for. So there is a list, that is the method of the yogis. How many of you thought about it after going back, sitting and thinking that? Thought about it? How many of you thought about it? How many thought? This many thought. How many spoke about it to each other or to anybody else? And how many did something about it? Really went back and thought, okay, let me practice all these things and let me take time to do some breath control. Let me take time to sit down and do some focus. How many thought about? How many actually did that? 1, 2, 3. Biggest number was how many? Heard. Second lesser number was how many thought? Even lesser number was how many said or spoke about it. And least number is how many did something about it. See, that is the plight of spirituality today. Many hear, a few think, fewer speak, and rarely people do. That is the problem with spirituality. Of course, thinking is the first process, first step. But it is of no use if you think about chapati. You keep thinking, but it doesn't go inside, it does not satisfy the hunger. So thinking should immediately lead to speaking, not speaking to others about it, even speaking within. Or speaking within your family, within your group, within your friends, that we heard this, we discussed, let us discuss this, let us understand this. That is the second step. Third is, let us do something about it. Let us try something with it. So I think yesterday I told that first you do yama niyama and then we will deal with the rest, and everybody said, oh, then we are a long way away. Let us not even try. That is not the attitude. Not trying is not the attitude. Yama niyama, while you are performing, you will be able to steady your mind much more for longer periods of time. You will be able to experience this peace, this focus for longer periods of time. But there is no harm even if you experience it for shorter periods of time. Is there any harm? There is no harm. So even for shorter period of time, when you get an opportunity to sit down, think and do anything about it, do. Because yama niyama is a lifelong process. It's not just for 1 day or 2 days. Lifelong you have to follow these disciplines, internal and external, in order to purify the mind, in order to stabilize the mind, and in order to remain focused on that idea, that thought of God. So that will take its own time. But it does not mean that you don't practice that at all. Yama Niyama is a lifelong, it should become a sahaja for you. It should become a natural way of living. Satya, ahimsa, aste, these should become natural ways of living. You should not put an effort to speak truth. Whatever you speak should be truth only. Ahimsa, you should not put an effort to be non-violent. Your nature should be non-violent. Aste, there is no effort to not steal. Your nature only is to not steal. So till that happens, you keep practicing that. But that does not stop you from doing some pranayama, doing some pratyahara on a regular basis. Did anybody practice and benefit from this pratyahara? Because some people have actually practiced this. Did you benefit for you able to control the vagaries of the mind for at least short time? At least for that moment, for a few moments, did you make it more peaceful, more balanced? You felt like that? That you got a taste of what it is. Taste of keeping the mind under your control, you say. So today I am going to speak to you about 4 pillars of this Vedanta. You learned yesterday about yoga. We have talked about Bhakti Yoga. We have talked about Karma Yoga. We talked about Jnana Yoga. We talked about Raja Yoga also. In the last few talks, we have covered almost everything. Isn't it? When we talked about Bhakti from Bhagavad Gita, what we talked about? We talked about do everything for God's sake. That is Karma Yoga too. But when you do it for your sake, then it is karma. Becomes yoga when you do it for selflessly. Selflessly for anybody's sake. But the higher idea is do it for God's sake. Because God is in everyone. With that idea, whomsoever you do, whatever you do, ashnasi, juhoshi, karoshi, dadasi, everything you do it for God's sake. So that becomes karma yoga by itself. So dharma bhakti. And because of that, what happens? Your mind finally gets merged with God. And that is jnana. Your mind is the only wall, only curtain between you and your true self. That is the only Maya. As he said, the Maya is between Rama and Lakshmana. So that Maya is there. But it does not hurt if once in a while such turns come and Maya is at least out for some time, out of our way, if not for all the time. At least for some time. It does help. So some practice to get rid of that little illusion once in a while also is good enough to begin with. So don't get discouraged that I said you should practice first these things and you're directly aiming for that. It's not necessary, but you should put efforts in all the things. But if you want to have those longer periods of focus, longer periods of peace and that experience of the bliss, then you have to put more efforts on your yama niyama. That is the foundation. Otherwise, once in a while, it's like jumping and touching the fruit or jumping and touching the roof. But you're not able to stay at the roof. Stay there. You're coming down immediately, isn't it? But nevertheless, there is an effort. You want to children play. They want to touch the branch of the tree. But that's all it is. You're not going and sitting on the branch. You're only touching and coming back. So, but at least that gives you an idea what it takes to go up. So it's no harm that you should practice. You should practice in some way. At the same time, every time your mind goes out of focus and your senses run hither, thither, then you have to tell my yama niyama is little lacking. My pranayama, pratyahara is little lacking. Somewhere, therefore, mind is running this way, that way. My focus is shifting. My focus is not clear. So I wanted to tell that because I don't want to discourage people from saying that, oh, this is an unachievable task to let it. I also said, this is definitely achievable. This is what is to be achieved, in fact. Everything else should lead to this achievement only. Nothing else should matter other than this. That was the whole idea. So today, Sri Adi Shankaracharya says, we have to have these 4 things to attain the divinity. Viveka, Vairagya, Shat Sampat, Mukshatva. 4 things are required. See, already 3 things you are born with human body. Already is great blessing. You could have been born as any animal, any bird or insect. But you have already been born as human. Turlabham trayamai vetat. 3 things are rare to find. Manushyatam, we have already found that. First blessing is over. Now how to lead this Manushyatam, how to lead so that it takes us to Mumukshatvam and to further using the company of the good, it leads us to moksha itself. So Adi Shankara says, Viveka is the first step to keep on discriminating. Is this leading me to my highest goal? Suppose I have to go to Bangalore, not in the present circumstances, but general circumstances. What will you do? You'll go to Chikbalapur and you'll go to the bus stop and ask for which bus goes to Bangalore. And somebody will say bus number so and so goes to Bangalore, and the other bus number so and so goes to Kadiri, let us say. So what will you do? You will choose the bus number, that bus number which takes you to Bangalore. It is simple. That is Viveka. Viveka is everything. Every discrimination is Viveka. When you think this is red and that is brown, that is Viveka only. So nobody can say, I don't have Viveka Shakti. That is not true. Viveka is there for everyone. Even an ant has Viveka. But it uses it only for its physical or biological, only for that need. Beyond that it is not. Or maybe to some extent some mental pleasure or pain. Beyond that it does not use its Viveka. It cannot think, is this real or unreal, is it divine or it is worldly, is it leading me to spirituality or throwing me into the world back again. It cannot think like that. Animals are not given that kind of a higher Viveka. Lower Viveka is there for everyone, including baby also has Viveka. Small newborn has Viveka. It knows what is pleasurable and what is painful. When it's hungry, it knows it needs food. Instinctively, we all know. Everybody knows. So Viveka is not new to anybody. But it is to be used for the higher discrimination. That is given only to man. Many people ask me, animals also commit, they also kill and eat each other. They also do all kinds of things. They may harm other creatures. Are they not incurring sin? They cannot, because they don't have the higher Viveka. They have been spared because they're living by the instincts of the nature. They are controlled by the nature. See, animals sleep in their own time. They eat in their own time. They're everything. They have a reason and season for everything. But man eats anytime, sleeps anytime, does anytime whatever he wants. Because he has the power to control his thoughts and intelligence. He has the higher intelligence, which is Viveka. But these animals don't have the higher one. They simply go by the instincts. So for them, no papa. They cannot be born again and suffer again in another birth. That doesn't apply to animals. They simply go by the law of evolution as the nature commands, controls. But human beings have been given this higher Viveka. They know that this is worldly, this is not spiritual, and this can lead to rebirth and another round and another round. They all know that. Animals don't know all these things. They have not been given. They have only been given at a lower intelligence, lower Viveka. Where I'll get my food? Is this my enemy or my friend? Will this situation be harmful or helpful? These kind of things they can decide for their biological needs. That's all. Beyond that, it is not given to the animals. But to humans, the Viveka is far more developed. Like human brain is developed, human speaking skills are developed, walking skills are developed. So many skills are developed in human beings compared to animals. Likewise, this Viveka, this intelligence is also a developed intelligence in humans compared to animals. Therefore, they should be able to discriminate between what is right, what is wrong. And when we use that for the higher discrimination, that is when it is called true Viveka. Nitya, Anitya Viveka they call it. What is temporary, what is permanent. That Viveka Shakti is given to humans. Now, whether you use it or not, it's up to you. It's up to you. You have so many things that you may or may not use it. You have a pen in your pocket. You may choose not to use it, or you may choose to use it. So that way Viveka has been given to all creatures, and to humans the higher Viveka is given, the developed Viveka is given. So the first thing Shankaracharya says that use that Viveka. What is that Viveka? It tells us what is going to take us to spiritual goal, what is going to pull us back into the worldly ways, the ignorant ways, into the Maya ways. That is all first step is. So keep thinking every moment, I am speaking this. Does this speech lead me to my realization or taking me any closer to my higher self? Does this bus go to Bangalore? Somebody says, yes, this does go. Then you go and sit in that bus. So you discriminate because your goal is God. And if you want to realize God, then you have to keep asking this question, Every day, every moment. Don't just ask when you come to satsang, Swami, I have a question for you. You ask this question to yourself every day. What I am doing, is it leading me to the following of yama niyama? Is it helping me to control my mind? It is helping me to get closer to God. So ask this question. This is very, very important. The second, like this table has 4 legs. The second leg is Vairagya. This is your best friend. Viveka and Vairagya are your 2 best friends. You call, so many people say, they write in letters, Swami, my best friend is not talking to me. Please convince him to talk to me. Some are children are there, they make friends in their own classes and my best friend is not talking to me. Then I think, who is the best friend? Viveka and Vairagya are the best friends. They should always talk to you. If they don't talk to you, then you are in trouble. If other best friends don't talk to you, it might be beneficial for you in a way. It will cut down some of your ego, some attachments, some expectations. But if Viveka and Vairagya, your 2 best friends, don't talk to you, you are in trouble. So Vairagya is the other friend. Vairagya, what it does, it helps us to get rid of that which Viveka tells us. Viveka says, this is not good. Immediately our friend Vairagya goes, picks it up and throws it over the window. So that is the friend. Vairagya is the other friend. These 2 friends should be on your right and left side all the time. So when you are moving around, imagine yourself to have these 2 friends. Suppose you are going to some place. You don't know something. Whom will you ask? You will call up your friend. If you have a friend by your side, you will ask, isn't it? Shall we go there? Shall we not go there? Like that, immediately turn to your right and ask Viveka. Oh, Viveka, what do you suggest? What do you advise? Should I say this or not say this? Should I do this or not do this? Should I go there or not go there? And Viveka immediately will tell you. He's a very good friend. He will tell you immediately, no, don't do that or do this. The moment Viveka says, use Vairagya's help. Vairagya, what will do? It will get rid of the thing that need not be there. It will help you not get attached to things which Viveka does not advise. It takes care of that. You have a doctor and a nurse. Doctor diagnoses. Oh, this man is having some particular problem. He needs a tablet or an injection. What does nurse do? Immediately gets an injection and gives it to you. Administers the medicine. Immediately nurse follows the doctor's advice. By itself, nurse does not do anything. Can any nurse do anything on her own? She is not qualified. She is not entitled. She is not allowed to do, authorized to do. She will do only if the doctor asks to do. So doctor is the Viveka. He says, diagnoses and tells, this is the problem, this is the solution. And what does Vairagya do? Like a good nurse, good assistant to Viveka. Immediately goes and does it. But you are the decision maker. Suppose doctor says, no, you have this problem, you need this medicine, get it from the nurse. She will give you an injection. You say, no, I don't want, and walk away. What can nurse do? She's not going to run behind you with an injection. She'll say, patient ran away, what can I do? So doctor will ask, what happened to the patient? Nurse comes and says, he ran away. I couldn't give the medicine. Then doctor says, oh, then how can he be cured? He has to suffer with stomach pain. That's exactly what is our situation. When the Viveka tells, this is what is the problem, this should be done and not done, immediately Vairagya should follow and finish the work. But if we in between come, that's why I said Viveka is on one side, Vairagya is on the, you are in between. If you don't allow the Viveka's command to be followed by Vairagya, no use. Viveka's advice is all waste. So think like that these 2 are on your either sides. And one without the other is no use. Viveka tells you, Vairagya does not do, no use. Or Vairagya does something without Viveka, that is also no use. Some people understand Vairagya in totally a different way. No, they don't understand. Many people think, give up this world, give up the worldly things. Means first thing they do is resign from the job, divorce your wife, abandon your children. That is not the Vairagya. That is Vairagya without any Viveka. With Viveka, what will tell? No. Learn to accept everything as God's plan for your evolution. Now understand how you can deal with them in a detached way. They belong to you. You must look after them. In a greater drama of God, He has given this role to you as a husband, father, or a son. So you use Viveka, then you can deal with it correctly. But many people, what they do, they think it's their Viveka that they're telling them to run away. And they run away. Not that they find peace elsewhere. They don't find peace. because they're not developed enough to handle that aloofness, aloneness, solitude. They cannot handle. So they will end up in wrong company somewhere else. So for that, Viveka and Vairagya have to go together. These are the two legs of the table. But can the table stand with two legs? No. So they need a third leg also. Third leg is Shat Sampat, they say. Shat Sampat, six Sampattis. What are the? Stocks, bonds, building, bank account, car, gold. These are not Sampats. These are temporary, so they cannot be in spiritual context. Spiritual properties are these six. Shama. Shama is mind being in control. Mind is not going to demand things from you and command you to do what it wants, but you will listen to the mind. That is Shama. I always give this example. If you have a dog, should you take the dog for a walk or should dog take you for a walk? You should take the dog for a walk, because you have to train the dog not to pull you and push you and do as it pleases to do. You are on a horse. Should you ride the horse or should the horse take you wherever it wants? You are a car. You have a driver. Should driver drive according to your command or you should go wherever driver wants to take you? So mind is only to that extent. So mind should listen to you. That is Shama. That will help you to keep the mind in its place and command the mind correctly. If you get that, you are wealthy, they say. You have a wealth, spiritual wealth. First wealth is Shama. Right? Dhamma. Dhamma means because mind is under control, your senses will naturally be under control. What happens? Some nice food is made in the hostel. Stomach is telling, I can't take any more. But tongue is telling, no, take one more. One more helping, one more spoon. Rarely does this pulao appear on my plate. After a long, long time, this has come by the grace of the cooks, kitchen in charge. So, stomach is saying, don't take more than this. It will be a trouble for you and later trouble for everybody in your room, in your vicinity. Don't. But the tongue, one more. Then whatever you feel it till here. And then suffer with a stomach pain whole night. That is what happens to us. We don't want to do it because your mind is telling that this is enough, but your tongue is not listening. Tongue wants to taste some more, one after the other and the other. Same applies to all the organs, not just for these eyes, ears, nose, everything is like that. I shouldn't listen to this gossip, this is scandalous talks. But somehow, the more I try not to listen to it, the more I listen to only that and everything else I don't listen to. I don't want to see that and my eye keeps going that way only. I don't want to do this, but my mind keeps going there. So this sense control, in the sense, physically you should be able to keep them in check. That is Dhamma. These two are most important. Shama means mind should be listening to what you say. And Dhamma, your senses should be listening to the mind in turn. Isn't it? They cannot do as they please. So that two are the Shama, Dhamma, and then comes to Uparati, withdrawal. Some kind of a Uparati means not too interested in anything, not getting attached to anything. A sense of detachment from everything. Oh, you have got 99% marks, you're the topper of the class. Well, good, that's God's grace. He has blessed me with that. You know what? Today you have failed in the class. After your good effort, you say, okay, I will try next time better. I will work hard and take it up next time. Udasina. Like that Uparati. Udasina gatavyataha, they said in the Bhakti Yoga. Udasina. Some kind of a withdrawal or some kind of a detachment, a distancing from everything. Uparati. Then Titiksha. Titiksha means I am able to bear whatever comes right or wrong as with equal mindedness. Some kind of a forbearance. Some good happens also, I should be able to bear it without jumping up and down. And something goes bad also, I should not start digging a pit to bury myself. Not that kind of attitude. So Uparati means some distancing if you do, Titiksha is possible to take it at the right way. When you distance yourself from things, you can see things in a better perspective. So you are able to take it better. Titiksha, forbearance. Very important. Then Shraddha. Shraddha means deep interest in all the good things, in the Guru, in the scriptures, in this whole idea of spirituality, you should have Shraddha. That again, in Tripura Rahasya, Dattatreya tells these are the three mistakes because of which we don't realize or we don't put an effort to realize God. The first is aparadha. He said aparadha is nothing but lack of Shraddha in scriptures, lack of Shraddha in Guru, lack of Shraddha in all the good things. You don't have interest in it. So you have to develop the interest. How do you develop interest? So when you're born, you were always drinking milk, mother's milk. Your mother had a hell of a time to change your habit from drinking mother's milk to eating rice. First time Annaprashna was done, the first reaction was what? Try all children. Annaprashna you do, put anything on their tongue, they'll spit it out. But what happened? Over a period of mother's persistence, this is good for you, this is good, Shreyo, this is good, this is Shreyo, this is not Preyo, but it is Shreyo. She keeps on convincing you. Till a date that one day if she doesn't cook rice at home, you know what's going to happen. So upset with your own mother. How did you not cook? Don't you know I love rice? Don't you know I cannot eat my food without rice? The mother should wonder, the same baby was spitting rice and now it's crying when rice is not being given. So that Shraddha also in good things doesn't come just like that. Purva Janma Sukruta should be there, good company should be there, and your own efforts to develop that Shraddha. Many people say, I don't get interest in these spiritual things, but I get very good interest in listening to unwanted things or seeing unwanted things. Great interest. That is not interest, that is instinct. That is instinct. Ahara nidra bhayamaitanam cha. Pashutvam it is. That instinct pulls you there. That is not interest. Interest has to be developed in everything. Instincts are already coming as with the birth. But interest have to be developed. So you develop some interest in music. You listen to a lot of music, slowly you develop interest. Then you listen to Western music, develop more interest in Western than Indian. In Western music, you may develop more interest in a certain musician and his music alone. Because of continuous listening, the Shraddha comes when you listen to good things all the time and spend your time in the company of good people. Then Shraddha will slowly start developing in you. Don't think that if you don't get interest right now in scriptures or good thing, it cannot be developed. It can be developed. It can be developed. So Shraddha has to be developed with lot of good reading, Swadhyaya you do, Satsanga you do. Slowly Shraddha will come. Initially you have to force yourself. Like the mother's force feeds the child rice. And finally a child left with no choice eats rice because anyway mother is not giving milk. It's hungry. So what it will do, it will take rice and eat. But after some time it develops a taste for that rice. Likewise, we develop taste for good things. That becomes Shraddha. After Shraddha, Samadhana. In all situations. Sama means, again, equal-mindedness. In all situations is equal-mindedness. Samadhi also is, in the very physical, literal meaning is to keep your mind equal in all situations. Since you have controlled your mind, controlled your senses, never engaged in unwanted things, since you have developed some distancing from all the activities of the world and you're able to see it as a witness from a distance, that gives you the ability to bear good and bad with as it comes, without attaching too much of excitement to good or too much of kind of hatred towards or some kind of a negative feeling towards bad. Tiksha. And then you do what you will do with all your time, you keep developing the Shraddha in scriptures, in good things, and get rid of that aparadha of the past, where you don't develop that interest. And finally, you develop a state where you are having equal-mindedness. So these six together are the true properties. The one who has it, has everything. See, if you don't have peace in life, can you enjoy anything? Can you enjoy, even if you're a big king and you don't have peace, can you even eat your food and enjoy your food? What your tongue is doing, you have no idea because your mind is not at peace. It doesn't have the equanimity. It's struggling. They're too excited. You've seen some people are too excited, they cannot sleep. Wardens have the hardest time to put them to sleep because they're too excited. These children, something, they won a match, they won a competition, or they cannot control them, cannot put them to sleep because the mind does not allow. Similarly, somebody is too sad or too depressed, even they won't sleep. They are generally found inside the bathrooms in the night, close the door and crying. because of depression. They cannot sleep. So either ways you cannot enjoy life if you don't have samadhana. So samadhana comes, that is a great, great, great wealth, they say, because that will help you enjoy everything else. If that does not come, nothing else you can enjoy. But to develop samadhana, all these 5 are helpful. Shama, Dama, Uparati, Titiksha, Shraddha. Ultimately you come to samadhana. And when you develop this is the 3rd leg of the stool. And 4th leg is mumukshatva. As I said yesterday, a deep, tremendous burning desire to know yourself. Like a man who has been burnt in fire runs for a balm to soothe his pain and cannot think of anything. That time you give him beautiful shoe or clothes, he's not going to be interested in anything. His hand is burning, he's suffering. You give him the best of the food at that time, he's not going to pay attention to it. He was running to find a solution to his burnt hand. That kind of a feeling, tapana, should be there for God. The one who has that will definitely run for God. He cannot think of anything else at that moment. Whatever you come and distract him with, he or she is not going to pay attention to it. So that kind of a deep passion to know God. Somebody came to Sri Ramakrishna and asked, "Can I see God the way you see?" "Of course you can," he said. I took him and pushed him into a well in the garden. That fellow started struggling to come out, to breathe, because he was scared that he will die. So Ramakrishna ji said, the way you are struggling now to get a breath, if the same way you struggle to see God, you will see God. But who struggles for God? We cry for everything. Even the Sri Ramakrishna used to say, who cries for God? Everybody cries for everything else. They cry for money, they cry for name, they cry for success, they cry for family, children. But who cries for God like this? So if you don't cry for God, how? Sri Ramakrishna himself practiced all kinds of yogas and all paths, left side, right side, everything. At the end of it, he realized that none of this is helping him to meet the divine. These are all those moments when you hit the roof, jump and touch and come back. You cannot stay up. These were the moments he experienced. Those nirvikalpas and sometimes savikalpas and things like that. But he was not able to feel the fulfillment of all the practices. So ultimately what he did, he went to this mother, pulled that, she holds a weapon, like a sickle, like a knife. He pulled that out from her hand, put it on his neck and said, if you don't show me yourself now, this is it. I am going to cut my head and offer it to you and be done with this life, which is of no use because I don't see you. At that moment the mother appeared. Not that she appeared physically, in his mind's eye. She appeared and told, don't do this, I am here with you. I am pleased with what you do. It doesn't mean that you'll all borrow knives and threaten me like this from tomorrow. Come for satsang, give me darshan, talk to me else. Many children do that. They cut their finger right with blood. All this is not true bhakti. I mean, that passion to know God should be very sincere from within. And how will God come? Mother did not come physically. The statue did not move from its place. She appeared to him in the mind's eye. He will tell, even in Dakshineshwar, he will sit and say, Ma has come. And everybody will look where? Because they cannot see. But he say, Ma has come. And he'll run to meet Ma. I'll sit on the steps and chat with Ma for hours and hours. And nobody can see what he's doing. They'll think he's gone mad. But he knew what he's doing. He was clear. He said, I experience God as I experience you. So, you don't have to expect me to appear in your hostels and your rooms. You have to think Swami is with me, with that bhakti, in some way or the other. He will be there with you. You know that. See, that he's saying, Vasudevananda, I told him, you ask me for everything, think I am your companion. You're eating food, Swami, let's go have food. You are going to satsang, Swami, let's go and have satsang. For everything you talk to me, I told him this secret, isn't it? What happens? Even if he has not physically or experienced me the way Ramakrishna is saying, but his heart knows that Swami is around. That is the first step. Pretend. And if I did not know that he's praying and praying to give a speech and also sing a song, so I told him, you don't sing a song, you only give the speech. Because I know, because he's talking to me all the time. Like his own, in his room, he thinks there are two people staying, not one. One is him, another is me. That's how his firm conviction it is. It is not some fanciful effort. It is firm conviction that Swami told that he will be with me, and if I talk to him, he will respond some way or the other. That is his innocent, deep conviction. So his experience is according to that. As you are convinced, that is how your experience is. So he is experiencing that. Isn't it, Vasudevan? But all these years he has been giving lot of saptaham, but never had this kind of a conviction. He will tell everybody, God is everywhere, Swami is with us. But did he himself have that kind of conviction which you have today, tell me? Therefore, you did not have that kind of experience before. Today you have the conviction, that is why you have the experience. So that conviction that God is with me, and it all the time involving God with us, every moment, that is through bhakti also that jnana will come. So mumukshatva is what? You tell God only. So you help me do all these things. You told me that you will give me the highest, but my hands are shivering and shaking. My hands are tiny, puny. They cannot take the gift that you have come to give. I know you are waiting for me to grow and evolve through Ashtanga Vidya or through all the other spiritual practices, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga. You are waiting for me to grow. My palms should grow big enough and strong enough to hold the precious gift that you have come to give. Nevertheless, till then be by my side. Help me in every moment do what I am doing. Please help me. This kind of a conviction also, if we develop, you will experience the presence of God every moment, help of God every moment. So this will keep our minds focused on our sadhana. We won't forget things. He said by the time prasadam appears in the hand, all the spoken and is forgotten. Now that cannot be the way. You have to take this message back and do mananam, go back to the home or wherever and think about at least 10 minutes. You think about all that Swami spoke today. Can I control my mind? Can I keep my senses under my control? Can I distance myself from things? That's why I said pratyahara, do a little bit of distancing from things. Can I do some meditation today? Even if 10 minutes, can I sit down in a corner? At least observe my breath to begin with. Can I sit down and think of how my thoughts are running here and there? Observe my thoughts. Start the practice somewhere there. In one day, nobody has become a pandita. Everybody needs some effort, but my whole idea is that efforts are required. Well, as I said, like the mythological Vidyanagari, where everybody is a jnani, I would like to see whole place, this at least to begin with. The one who is preaching all these things, if somebody comes here and says, your own people are not following, your own place is full of avidya, what am I going to tell them then? Somebody comes to Ramarajya and says, your Ramarajya is not at all like Ramarajya, so how can you be Rama? So that is how it will be. So if we put practice and put efforts, then it's possible that we start experiencing some of these, at least for short moments we'll experience that peace, that bliss, that oneness. It may not stay for too long because it all depends on all the basic practices. But the longer you keep doing it, slowly its intensity, its time will increase till it becomes sahaja for you to any moment decide to be that way. That will come naturally with the passage of time. So do that. Effort is very, very important, and I want everybody to take this effort very seriously. And this will come with effort. Little effort you put, grace will come. Many people can complain to Guru. Guru, you are being very gracious to that person. You are not being gracious to me. That is wrong. The extent of grace that you enjoy is only to the extent of efforts that you put. Grace is equal to all. But if you put more effort, suppose you finished the previous assignment, then I am ready to give you the next assignment, isn't it? Suppose you come and say, I have not finished the previous homework. What will teacher say? First finish that. Then come, then let us talk about next. So all these things have to be developed with effort. Without effort, nothing will come. Without effort, you can't even get your food. If you sit in your place and hope that food will come to you, it's not going to happen. You have to get up, go to the dining hall, pick up a plate, put what you like to eat, and then sit down in a place, put in your mouth, chew, swallow, digest. It is a process. Just sitting, if you imagine that my stomach should get filled on its own, it will never happen. Likewise, this effort is required. So I want to see numbers increase. From those who have heard, that many only should have thought about it. More should have been spoken about it to each other and to more. And finally, everybody who has heard or thought or spoke must have done something about it. It cannot reduce. Numbers should not reduce like this. In fact, I would expect that if you have heard, you would go back, and there are so many more who cannot come every day. Probably you will discuss with them, spend that 15-20 minutes, half an hour, and tell them also about it so that you yourself get a reformation of whatever you have heard and your concepts get clarified, and then you all put combined effort. As a family, put an effort if you can. You are doing bhajans as a family, you can sit down. Okay, let us all sit down 10 minutes, let us see. And one simple exercise I will give. Observe your thoughts during that moment when you are trying to, let's begin there. Slow down your breathing and observe your thoughts during that period when you are trying to keep your mind steady, that where all it goes. And then note it down in your notebook, in your spiritual notebook. Maintain a small spiritual diary for your own sake. Note it down. Today when I sat down for meditation, first thing came is the idli in the morning. The second thing came is my toothpaste is over. Third thing came is that Swami had told this. Fourth thing, that bhajan. Fifth thing, you see the series of things your mind is thinking. Just observe. Don't do any effort to control the mind. Many times these children are running and mothers are getting worried, then they try to control it. Just leave them. After some running, they will settle down on their own. Leave them. That's what I tell them. Kada? I'm not telling that the more you force the mind, the more it will do tantrums, throw tantrums at you. So just observe the mind, note down those 8, 10. Do this exercise and come tomorrow. Sit down for those 10 minutes and observe where all your mind goes. It means your mind is engaged in how many things right now. So how do I engage it? How I disengage it from all these things is the next effort. Suppose every day the first thing in your mind that comes is the food and food and food alone. I can't think of anything other than what I ate for breakfast or what I would like to eat for lunch and what I hated for the dinner. It means so much your mind is stuck in that Annamaya Kosha. Your consciousness is stuck in the Annamaya Kosha. It's not able to move up from there because topmost 70% of your thoughts are occupied by food. Then something else. So like this, you keep observing your mind. That is the first step. You should know where the problem is, right? Diagnosis you should do for yourself. Self-diagnosis, self-audit. So sit down and diagnose yourself. Where my mind is most interested. Over 1 week, you will come to know the pattern, how your mind moves. So those who are Tindipothus, you will know that 70% of your thoughts were related to some food item or the other. Those who are very intellectual, they remember 50-60% of their mind was always thinking about some intellectual thought or a debate or an argument or a book that they read. Those who are bhajan people, as I said, because they involved so much, probably 70-80% will think of the bhajan that they sang right, wrong, or about the practice. Maybe some 25-30% of the mind will think about what Swami has been saying. But 70-80% of the mind will do all these things. Keep observing and make your mind aware that you are thinking of all these things. Finally, what you should tell, mind, you are thinking too much about these things. These are just natural things that should come by and by as a part of life. You try to think more about spiritual things. Can you slowly start thinking that you are born out of divine, you live in the divine, and you will merge in the divine? Can you think a little more than Aham Brahmasmi? Let us speak about it. Have a conversation with your own mind. That is what the next step of meditation would be. First step is observation. Do it for a week or 10 days. Just write it down, whatever you're seeing. You'll come to know where your mind is. So you can diagnose and you can do something about it. The Viveka will tell you, see, your mind is doing all kinds of things. Vairagya will help you get rid of those things which are not necessary. Next step, what you have to do is that have a discussion, have a conversation with the mind. Mind, listen, I've been observing you for last 1 week. This is what I've found out about you. Let's have a frank talk, an honest talk about how we want to improve ourselves. So let us think of these things more and these things less and these things not at all. Let us do that. Again, 1 more week you write down how your mind responded to this. First 2-3 days it will not respond properly, but slowly it will get used to it. Then another week you keep putting the same effort and say, mind, let us now take one thought, dharana. Let us think of one thought only. Let us see how long can you stay on this one thought. One boy is there, he was talked too much. So they have a competition. Who keeps quiet longer? Whoever keeps quiet longer will get a prize. Parents love this competition, isn't it? They call their children and say, how long will you be quiet? You will get a prize for that. And the child gets fooled into it. Can you imagine the child who has been jumping and fighting and making noise, suddenly becomes very silent because he observes, I have to win this Half an hour I have to keep quiet. My mother said, half an hour if you keep quiet, you'll win the prize. Look how you trick the child into keeping quiet. Trick the mind into keeping quiet. Look, mind, let me see how good you are at keeping quiet. Can you keep quiet for 10 minutes? Let me see. If you don't, then you lose it. Then I don't think you're a good mind. Then the mind will also start responding accordingly. It will start learning to keep quiet and quiet. 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour. Slowly, it will develop that habit. Why I am saying is that some of them have also written to me that, practically how do I follow this? Idea-wise, it looks very, very amazing. Oh, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. 5 steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's it. Go to mirror, clean the mirror, put a bindi, that's it. That is the process. But to put that bindi at the right place, you have taken 20 years to learn how to put bindi. How to keep yourself clean and groomed. A small kid cannot do that. Can a 1-year-old fellow go and do that? It's not possible. So you have taken 5, 15, 20 years to reach that stage where you know how to groom yourself and what is wrong with your surroundings. So this also will take time. But this small, simple, very practical exercise. Take a small notebook, pocket notebook. 1 week you sit down for whatever time is comfortable for you, in a corner, in a quiet place. And observe, just keep noting down what your mind does during those 10, 15 minutes. What all it thinks of and how quickly it shifts between various things. The more it shifts in those 15 minutes, the more attention that mind needs. The more, he's a naughty child. He needs more counseling, more grooming, more attention. So you will know for yourself. But also you know that mind is very clever. Some days it will behave so well because it doesn't want punishment. So for those 2-3 days also it will behave very quiet. But don't worry, 4th day it will show its true colors. That is how it is. Like a child, compare it with a naughty child or a quiet child. Your sattvic mind or rajasic mind or tamasic mind, you will come to know. And if you have slept off in the first 2 minutes, you know that this is a tamasic mind. If you have remained awake at least for the 10 minutes but thought of too many things, it's a rajasic mind. If you remain for 10 minutes, thought only one thing or two things at the best, you are a sattvic mind. Then you know how to deal with your mind accordingly. But in 1 day you will not know. 1 week you should observe at least to know the true color. 1 day you go to some relative's house, everybody is nice to you. They serve you nice hot coffee, tea, pakoda, samosa, or they give you good food. Stay for 1 week, they'll be waiting for you to leave. All the love will vanish, all the affection will diminish. In fact, hatred will begin. Likewise, your mind, but at least 1 week you observe minimum. Sages observe it for years. You observe for at least a week. Note down what it does. Next week, next exercise is to talk to mind and say you're thinking too many things. Can you start thinking, reducing those things, and can you think of a few good things? Even if it's music, let us think of good things in music. Think of some musician who has reached God because of this music. Think something like that. Take a line, one line, meditate on that line, contemplate on that line. What does the line convey? Anything. After that, you slowly come to a thought that mind, let us not think of anything. Let us just stay. Let's see who stays quiet longer. Teach that to mind. It will observe for some time, it will not do. Note it down, how long it could stay quiet. Then another, like this week after it. Another week finally you teach the mind, think of this one, Aham Brahmasmi. Or think of, I am divine. Let us focus on that thought. So like this you train the mind over a period of time. A lot of these lockdown challenges are there. So take a mind challenge for this lockdown. 1 month mind challenge. What will you do 1 month? Divide it in 4 weeks. What will you do 4 weeks? First week, just observe the mind. Second week, have a discussion with the mind. That let us think of one thing, not too many things. Third week, try to quieten the mind. Keep quiet for those 10 minutes. Let us not think of anything. Any thought comes, throw it out of the window. Good thought, bad thought, throw it out of the window. Fourth week, think of this principle, that you are divine. Mind believes that you are divine. I am divine, I am divine. Your mind will really, really start minding whatever you are saying. It will listen. It's a training. Like you train a child, train anybody, train yourself in music. But keep it consistent. 3 days you do, 4th day you get this is not for me. Then you are back to zero. Again you have to begin from the same thing. Will you do this effort? Or you put this effort and tell others also to put this effort. And as I said, there is no particular time, place and situation. Whichever time is comfortable, preferably in one place, one time is good. It will remain consistent. But even otherwise, you're busy with something, wherever you find that little quiet time, go to a corner and sit down. Should we not spend that much time on our own spiritual growth? We are spending time for everybody's growth. Annapurna is distributing food to all the people who are hungry. Trust is sending away whatever it needs to do for everybody. We are all busy doing everything for everybody. Should we not spend that 10-15 minutes for ourselves? We clean our body. We spend those 10-15 minutes. Hopefully everybody is spending to clean the body. Are we not? 15 minutes we spend to clean our place where we stay or reside. Should we not spend 15 minutes to clean our mind every day? That is what is important. And that effort has to come from your side. My telling you all this is not going to clean your mind. It's only my telling you is how to clean the mind, that's all. So if you listen to a satsang, you will only know how to clean the mind, how to eat food. But eating food is not happen. So don't go into that impression that I attended satsang, my mind is clean for the day. No, not necessary. Attending the satsang is you are learning only how to keep your mind clean. These are methods. To apply these methods, you have to go back to your rooms and do. That is in your hand. So all this will find success only if you are putting the effort back home, back in your room. Okay? So this you please keep in mind and don't take it lightly. He told yesterday, so you have to take very seriously. If I give you all these thick books and tell you read for yourself and find out about how you control the mind, how many of you are going to do that? First of all, they are all written in Sanskrit. Half the people will faint the moment they read 2 stanzas of Sanskrit. I made it in your language. It is in English. Then I made it so simple and practical. So you start with this. Yama niyama you have to do. That is a lifelong exercise. It's not for today. Lifelong you have to follow these principles of good conduct within and without. That is given. Apart from that, about the mind control, I am telling these other things which if you practice slowly, in that also I am making it practical, saying don't straightway try to attain samadhi. That may not happen and you will get frustrated and you will say this is all not for me. But that is not true. And one day somebody comes for music practice, doesn't get to sing properly, music is not for me. That's a wrong attitude. It is for you, provided you put that effort consistently. So that is what I am saying. So how do I do pranayama, pratyahara? This is what I am doing, exactly what I did, asking you to do in 4 weeks. You think tomorrow you tell me what I have told, how is it related to the Ashtanga Yoga? Keep yama niyama aside. Now all these 4 weeks I have practically told you how to do asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana. In these 4 weeks. That is what I have taught you. Asana, sit down in one quiet place. Don't do anything with the mind. Just observe the mind. Isn't it? Next day, pranayama, try to control the mind. Tell the mind, don't think of too many things. Let us think a few things. Slow down your breath. First week, I am not even telling slow down your breath. Just sit and observe the mind. Asana only. If you can sit down in one place. Second week, pranayama. Observe the mind at the same time. Control your breath. Control the mind. Talk to the mind. Think of good things. Then pratyahara. Discard everything. Think of one thought. It could be any thought that is dear to mind. If you sit with a child, the child wants to talk about a cartoon or talk about some game. Okay, talk about it. But have only one conversation, not 10 conversations. Third week. Pratyahara. Dharana. Fourth week, only one thought. I will choose the thought. Mind, you will not choose this time. 1 week you have chosen the thought and we had a discussion. Now I will choose the thought. The thought is that we are divine. And let us sit on this thought, dharana. Let us bear this thought, hold this thought for some time in our head, discarding everything else. Then comes dhyana. The thought becomes you. You become the thought. And after that, there is no thought at all left. So these 4 steps, 4 weeks. While yama niyama goes on every day, every week, every year of your life. These other things should go. And if you fail by chance, don't give up. That's all I mean. Don't give up. If you give up, there is one. Uttishta jagrita prapya varanni bodhayat. Kathopanishads, clarion call. Yama tells, what is the quality of that person who wants to reach me? Uttishta, you Get up, don't keep sitting and in the means spiritually sitting and not doing anything. Jagrita, be awake, alert, and prapya varan nibodhayata. Till you have attained it, don't give up. That's all I am saying in English. So these 4 weeks you practice, and let us see after this 30-day challenge, how do you come out of it? Whether you have conquered it or it has conquered you again, like it has conquered you for so many births. Are you again the slave to that, or this time at least you have mastered it? Let us see. Okay? I'm not going to ask you what you have thought, what you have not thought. That is between you and yourselves, your mind. But keep noting down. Something good will come out of it. Practically it will come out of it. You keep doing. If you do that, then I will speak about more things. Otherwise, what is the point in me going on saying things which is not going to be used at all?
प्रेमामृत बरसाओ बाबा, प्रेमामृत बरसाओ बाबा, प्रेमामृत बरसाओ बाबा, प्रेमामृत बरसाओ बाबा, दया करो भगवान, दया करो भगवान, कृपा करो भगवान, कृपा करो भगवान, दया करो भगवान, तुम्हारी दया बिन कैसा जीवन, 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 रोम रोम में बसने वाले राम, रोम में बसने वाले राम, रोम रोम में बसने वाले राम, रोम रोम में बसने वाले राम, जनन मरण से पार उतारो, 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 दया करो भगवान, कृपा करो भगवान, कृपा करो भगवान, दया करो भगवान, करो भगवान, कृपा करो। तुम्हारी दया बिन कैसा जीवन, तुम्हारी दया बिन कैसा जीवन। रोम रोम में बसने वाले राम, रोम में बसने वाले राम, रोम रोम में बसने वाले राम, रोम रोम में बसने वाले राम। जनन मरण से पार उतारो, जनन मरण से पार उतारो। दया करो भगवान, दया करो भगवान, कृपा करो भगवान, कृपा करो भगवान, दया करो भगवान, कृपा करो भगवान।